There was a lot of things that infected this case, like politics, that's sent it off the rails really early on. And so there are no winners. I mean, Kyle now gets to live his life as a free young man, an innocent young man, which he is. But at the end of the day, I mean, there are no winners. I believe this is a inflection point for this country that we should try to bridge the divide right now, and we should try to come together, right? This is a moment that I think the country can use to get united, to try to get united, to have conversations, to sit across the table.
Have you talked to Kyle at all?
Not
since the verdict came?
No. They left immediately. They went out the back door for security reasons. We wanted to get him off site. So.
What's next for him?
College. He can be an 18-year-old young man. He's studying prerequisites at Arizona State University and for nursing, and he's going to continue that. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure he can live as normal of a life moving forward as possible. But I think you're going to see some good things that come out of Kyle in the future, because he's a very, very pragmatic young man, right? That's been through a lot, and there's so many pieces of this case that touch every issue in modern day contemporary politics, right? But at the end of the day, this case was always about self-defense and nothing else. It wasn't about politics. It was not about race. It was a case about, did he defend himself when attacked? And he absolutely did, and thank God that the jury came to that conclusion. But look, I'll say it again. There are no winners in this, but this is an opportunity to have some discussions that I think should be had.
And David Hancock, Channel 12 in Milwaukee here, ABC. We're live as well, and I just want to introduce you to our viewers. You've been with the Rittenhouse family this whole time, and I was in the courtroom and I saw you, Wendy, really kind of held onto your arm tightly. What did you feel from her in that moment when they read the verdict?
Relief. I mean, a year and some odd months of just having her son be defamed, for lack of a better term, but just be assaulted with just untrue things and comments and assumptions. And she knows what's in Kyle's heart and what's in his head, as do I. Since I picked him up on November 20th, I know, and everybody in that room, all his family know the kind of person Kyle is. And so to get the verdict was just, I mean, I'm still trying to kind of reconcile it all in my head right now, but she knows her son is going to be coming home, and she knows her son will always be coming home now, right? So, and he's been judged to be innocent. He's not guilty of what has... So, I'm kind of bumbling too, but...
And did you see his reaction at all? You almost could kind of hear him hit the table. His knees may be buckling. Did you catch that at all?
It's been a long... Yeah, it's been a long road. It's been a long road. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the family for staying strong. God bless Mark and Corey. The defense team just nailed it. But to that point, I think there's some issues that need to be looked at in terms of the prosecution and the things that they did, what they attempted, and hopefully that will be looked into in the coming months.
It's always risky to put the defendant on
There
the
was never a
stand.
doubt. There
He
never
was
a doubt.
always going to take the stand. Do you think
He
that
wanted to take the stand. Sorry to cut you off, but he always wanted to take the stand because he wanted to tell his story, what he experienced, how he felt. There was never a doubt that he was going to take the stand.
do you think that played a huge role in this verdict?
I
His
would,
own words.
I would think yes, because then you strip away everything else. You strip away everybody calling him a racist and a white supremacist, and you strip away everybody else trying to tell the world his intent, right? Why he was there, who he is, the kind of young man he wants to be in the future. You get rid of all of that, all right? And he tells his story, and he was always committed to doing that, period.
For people who don't know Kyle, you've got a chance to really know him. What do you want people to know about him right now?
What I think came out in court was the things that were being reported about him were not factual or true. Ever since the 25th of August of last year, he is a caring, he's an empathetic, and he's a civic-minded young man. And so I think you're going to see some good things out of Kyle coming up, because I was telling them he's very pragmatic about what has happened over the past year, right? So he's got some things to say, and I think you're going to be even more surprised by who Kyle actually is as more people get to know him better.
Can
How
he
was
go?
Kyle feeling before the verdict and then after the verdict?
Relieved. I mean, absolutely relieved, because this has been a long road. It's been a long road. But look, he is innocent and he can live a free life now. But there are no winners in this. This case has divided so many different parts of America that had nothing to do with the fact whether or not he defended himself when being attacked. That's what this case has always been about. Did he defend himself when he was attacked?
What did your team make of 4 days of deliberations?
We took it as this jury was being very cerebral and they understood the gravity of this decision. I mean, you can't overlook just how serious this case was and is to this nation. Right now, at this time, with all these politics going, like, you can't overlook that. So I believe that they wanted to make sure that this was the right decision. And so, personally, I appreciated that. And I never felt one way or the other that it was going on for 2 or 3 or 4 days. That just told me that they were being thoughtful. So,
How do we repair the divisions in this community and the country that are so apparent to you that you just discussed?
well, I think that's the question, right? I think that's the question for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the problem is the question is never asked. Like what you just said, that's never what people are talking about. Nobody asks each other, how do we repair the divisions in this country? It just keeps going, right?
Will it take some time for him to get back to a normal life?
I think so.
Will there be a security concern for a while?
Of course.
What's next for him?
Of course, college.
Do you know where?
At Arizona State University. I mean, think about it. This case became so politically charged that when Kyle was on the stand and he said, I go to Arizona State University, I want to study nursing, and then people call up Arizona University and then they say, oh, he's lying on this. No, the happiest I've ever seen Kyle in the past year and 3 months, besides when he got his puppy Milo, was when he got his Arizona State student ID in the mail, right? That was the happiest I've ever seen him. So it's things like that. It's that kind of vitriolic nonsense, right? that I think as a nation we are at a inflection point, and that stuff needs to be addressed here in the future.
Would you
How
say
does he
he's
have
looking
a-
for a fresh start, like a do-over at with what happened?
By Fred.
Like, I
Well,
mean,
he
he's
is
leaving the
almost in
state-
effect. He is having a fresh start. Like everything that has been said about him, everything that's been reported about him, that has just not been true. I mean, that's going to linger.